Not a very good DJ, am I? Right.
Yeah, sure, mate. You can check my census form. My name's the orgasm addict.
The NME really took off in about 76. Even though I bought the first copy in 74, the time it really happened was when Rock Against Racism, the Anti-Nazi League, Burchell and Parsons were the punk writers. I mean, Tony Parsons, sadly, nowadays has turned into like a UKIP bellend, but he at the time was very radical, very much very pro Labour at the time. For a comprehensive kid like me from the London New Towns, it was a revolutionary thing. I thought it was like a call to arms for me. And when I went to Rock Against Racism, saw bands like Steel Pulse, I saw Specials play Ghost Town at various Anti-Nazi League gigs. And you see the sort of bands that are coming up now through Love Music, Hate Racism. Music, all right, music won't change the world, and music writing won't change the world, but it will change hearts and minds in its own little way, particularly if you link that writing and that protest with industrial action. It's the whole idea about agitate, educate, organise and all of that. I feel that the NME, literally changed my life and made me, the person I am. When I used to read the NME, I used to have a dictionary by the side of me because some of the writers, the language was that, obscure. I literally I had to learn that way. The new NME, which I picked up recently, this is the free NME that I was warning people about, this sort of corporate sellout. It's basically every other page seems to be, well, I don't know about every other page, but there's a lot of advertisement features in it. So they look like stories, but actually they're paid for advertorials that have been paid for by the corporates. All the live reviews have been taken out. It looks like there's about 2 writers left in it. Every week there's a front page with a pop star on. I'm nothing against Rihanna, but Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift. Just every week there just seems to be that sort of dumbing down and sort of it just looks like a kid's pop magazine now. I mean, Charles Shaar Murray, one of the old NME writers, used to say that the NME should barbecue dinosaurs. That was the purpose of the magazine. And essentially now we've just got the pop dinosaurs every week. It's got no counterculture. There's no independence from corporate advertising. That's the important thing. A lot of the pirate stations were in the heaviest parts of London. They were in the North Peckham estate, which is, I don't know if you know that estate, but it's a notoriously tough estate where postmen won't even go, doctors won't even go. I used to turn up to do a graveyard shift on that show at midnight till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I used to have a head bag full of my vinyl, and I used to have to take a baseball bat with me as well. It was that dangerous. You had pit bulls running wild, you had junkies on the stairwells. It was a really, really rough area. I was involved in anti-establishment radio, pirate radio. It was a station called London LWR, London Wide Radio, which was on at the same time as KISS in London. And there were various DJs there, people like Pete Tong, who's gone on to bigger and better things now. But with London Wide Radio, we were the first station in the UK to play stuff like Public Enemy, really militant hip-hop stuff, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, and we pioneered that sound. And at the time, radio was very much, it was like every DJ sounded like a bank manager. It was Radio 1, it was that whole smashy and nicey, decade, and we were basically talking the language of the streets. We were promoting local communities that were involved in pirate radio. We did all night vigils for Mandela. We were outside South Africa House in Trafalgar Square. We were doing all the all night vigils with Jerry Dammers and the Free Nelson Mandela campaign. So we were very proud of that. So we were so proactive. and I'm so proud of those days that we did it for nothing. We did it to get freedom of the airwaves, to try and get decent radical music on the radio.
Corresponding to the relatively hostile work environment that you described, having to take the baseball bat to the radio station, do you think that environment helped keep a level of authenticity about what you were trying to do?
I think so, because it seemed like a real underclass, at the time. They were sort of no-go areas, but a lot of the DJs from those stations lived on those estates, and it was just. I just thought, well, it's that whole idea about alienation. These people, had no prospects. They were living like that. A lot of crackheads in those areas. And if you go to Shoreditch now, it's ridiculously gentrified. It's just full of hipsters and people. With obviously the long beards and the little coffee shops and selling cereals for £8 a box of cereal and crazy stuff like that, and it has become gentrified, and it's got that insidious corporate vibe about it now. They try and make out their alternative, but it just seems to be a lot of the people, a lot of the genuine Cockneys, for want of a better word, or the East Enders have moved out to Essex or the surrounding areas. The thing about music journalism now, well, like all journalism, when I was writing for it, it was probably music's most street smart era, really. And for a guy like me, from my background, it was quite hard to get into it. But now it's virtually impossible. I would say, if you're a working class person now trying to get into journalism, you've got virtually zero chance, because they use a lot of people to do what's the word? Is it indentures? What's the word? When you have free, they do work for free.
Interns. Yeah.
So I can't. So nowadays, a lot of the journalists that are used on the national press and the music press, although the NME, as I say, has got hardly any writers now. I think it's just an editor and one writer, but are interns who work for nothing. And to me, that is absolutely insane. Why would you work for nothing? We had a very strong union in my day. We had a very strong chapel. I was the father of the chapel when I worked on the press, and we fought for the best conditions we could, the best pay we could. And we certainly wouldn't accept anyone coming in, even if they were doing freelance work for nothing. It's absolutely criminal, It's a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, and it was, and that's the way it's gone now. Everything in the national press and the music press, as I say, it's interns, it's using people on the cheap, slave labour effectively. And again, it's that dominance of a lot of private school people that work in the media who've got no experience of living in the real world, and so they can't relate to people that are struggling. And that is why you've got such a right-wing media in this country at the moment. It's insane what's happened to Corbyn since he became a Labour leader. He was treated like a rock star prior to that, and as soon as he became leader, he's had this really hostile media shitstorm against him. I think I still believe he's a genuine friend of the working class, and I think despite all the pressure he's getting, a lot of the polls are showing that he could still be Prime Minister. Despite all the the moderates and the backstabbers turning against him, I still feel that Corbyn has got a really good chance of being Prime Minister, because people are going to say that's honest, straight politics.
So, for those people who are left over who want to barbecue dinosaurs, what do you think they can do? Because obviously the NME is out of it now.
Yeah.
Where would you say they should take to?
Where journalists should go now is definitely online. A lot of these online magazines, things like the Huffington Post and a lot of the left radical press online, that's the way forward. And a lot of the anti-globalisation movements have happened online. So I really believe that's the way forward for those. But yeah, sadly, this whole program is called Whatever Happened to the Radical Music Press, and that is it. That's what happened to the Radical Music Press.